Welcome to the live stream, Facebook and Instagram. The topic for today, right now, starting at 4:44, the topic is how to communicate openly and honestly with your loved ones or a potential person that you might want to be in a relationship with, period. How to communicate openly and honestly and why that is so important, right? So, First off, when we are trying to establish a solid relationship, right, there's a certain level of vulnerability that has to take place, right? And a part of that vulnerability is being able to communicate openly and honestly, right? Being able to communicate is what creates clarity, right? If we can communicate effectively, so this is kind of why this is so important. If we can communicate effectively, there will be no misunderstandings, right? There will be no gateways into sadness, disappointment, anger, anything like that, because we know how to communicate. We know how to talk, right? We have been taught how to communicate aggressively, how to communicate passive aggressively, even how to tell lies in order to maintain the peace, right? Or even how to tell lies in order to protect whoever we're communicating with from being hurt or whatever, right? For me, my mother, and this is how you know your mother is everything. Like, your mother is really your first God, right? Because your mother will keep things from you. Your mother will not communicate with you open and honestly out of protecting you, right? If you have ever had a situation like that where your mother did not tell you something right when it happened because she's trying to protect you, so she thinks, put a 1 in the comments, right? Mothers, wives, we have been taught that we have to protect whoever we're communicating with. We can't tell the straight up truth because we don't want to hurt their feelings. We don't want them to react or respond a certain way. This is how we've been taught to communicate, right? It's scary. I can't tell you this because I want to protect you from anger, pain, disappointment, whatever, right? Not knowing that negatively affects us, all right? So if y'all see me flipping the paper, that's because I wrote down notes because I want to give you what I got, the best that I can, as quick as I can, right? Withholding information out of fear of how a person will react is actually doing more harm, right? Because if you're withholding some information, then you're also creating a lack of trust, period. Okay? So, how do we actually communicate openly and honestly? Well, first, you gotta know it starts with you. It starts with you. The judgments that you place upon yourself, right? The judgments that you place upon yourself, how you see a situation is most of the time what causes us to not be able to talk and communicate effectively, right? We judge ourselves. So you got to understand that whenever we are trying to have an open, honest communication with a new person that we're, talking to, first of all, you do not have to tell somebody that you're freshly jumping into a relationship with all of your business and all of your beings, right? They may not be deserving of that information just yet, okay? But if you establish a connection, right, and you feel that it is genuine, then yes, you want to start having open, honest conversations that are free of judgment, right? If you are not judging yourself, whoever you are communicating with cannot judge you. Regardless of what that person says, You feel free. You feel open. You feel like you did what was best for you to do. You communicated in the way that was best for you to communicate. All right? So you have to first release the judgment of who and what you are. When you release that judgment of whatever it is that you need to communicate, right? Because in all reality, it's fear. I'm telling you from my own experience with communicating, with my love, with my mother, with my family members. It was all fear. And it was fear of how I thought they would respond to something that I had to say. And this was a learned behavior. Because oftentimes growing up, you said, shut up, be quiet, stay in a child's place. Everybody has had those experiences before. So we have been taught to not communicate openly and honestly. Do not tell anybody how you're truly feeling because they are going to judge you. They're going to feel some type of way about it. They're going to be angry. They're going to be sad. We've been taught that, right? Okay. So the very first thing that you have to do and understand in order to have open, honest, solid communication is learn not to judge yourself. Don't judge the situation, whatever it may be, within yourself, right? The second thing, don't make assumptions. We swear we know how somebody's going to respond to what we got to say. We swear we know how someone is going to respond to our past experiences. We swear we know how somebody's going to respond to something that we may want to do in the future. In all reality, we don't know. We don't know. And so because we think we know how somebody's going to respond to something that we have to say, this inhibits us from being able to have open, honest communication. Like, I already know what she's going to say. I already know what he's going to do. I already know what he's going to say when I tell him this. You're assuming. You're making an assumption. All right? So in order for you to have good, open, honest communication, don't make assumptions. Don't make assumptions. You can't do that because most of the time you're wrong. On many occasions, I've been wrong. Like I thought I knew. And then even I've tried to structure how I'm going to say something before I deliver it because I want to protect that person or because I want to protect myself from how they will respond. Right? And all of that is actually fear-based. All right? So whenever you're building a relationship, right, or whenever you're communicating with a loved one, mother, father, somebody, and you want to get down to, you want things to be clear, don't assume that you know how they're going to respond. Because when you assume, you're imposing fear on yourself, and that fear will stop you from communicating openly in the way that you need to. The next thing, right? The next thing in having good, open communication is you being the person who is actually listening for understanding, right? You have to give what you actually want to receive when you're communicating with your partner, when you're communicating with your lover, when you're communicating with a friend, when you're communicating with anybody. You have to give and be what you would actually want to get to receive, right? When you're having a serious, talk. And what is that, right? You want to listen for understanding. See, too many times we ourselves, even me, because I'm not perfect and this is a work in progress, too many times we are listening, right? We're hearing, I shouldn't say listening, because listening is actually a mental process. You're actually receiving information. When you are already having thoughts in your head about what the person you're talking to is actually saying and you already have a response, you're not listening for understanding. So in order to have good, solid communication that actually heals and does work and builds and takes you and your partner to new heights in your relationship, or it takes you and the relationship you have with your parents, the relationship you have with your children to all new levels, when you are communicating with them and it's their time to talk, you actually need to be listening for understanding, not to have a response. You have to genuinely, within your heart, want to know where your partner is coming from. Not imposing your thoughts, your feelings on them. You want to know and understand where they're coming from, right? So that was 3. So 1, I done forgot what 1 was. Let me see. 1, release self-judgment. Don't judge yourself and don't judge the message that you have to give. Don't judge what you have to say as being negative or positive. Hey, don't judge what you have to say. Don't judge your truth. Don't judge your truth. When you judge your truth, you give room and you give way for whoever you're communicating to judge that truth. All right? You don't judge it. Next, don't make assumptions. Don't assume you know, because you don't. You don't. People, your loved ones, your honey, your boyfriend, your wife, we understand more than you think, right? We understand more than you think. We offer a greater perspective than what you may think, right? So after we release the judgment, right? I don't feel no type of way about it. After I release assumptions, I don't assume you're going to respond this way, so this allows me to be able to communicate this with you, right? After we do that, next, we actually want to be listening to whoever we're communicating with for understanding. I want to listen to understand your perspective. When you do that, you will get that in return. So you have to lead by example in this situation. Set the example as to how to actually listen. My honey tells me this all the time. He tells me this all the time. You have to say little subtle things as you're listening to your partner talk, right? Okay, yeah, I got you. Okay, yeah. Little things like that to let the person that you're talking to actually know you're listening. And you want to get so good at listening that when they're done, and you want to be listening for understanding so good that when they're done talking, you are able to rephrase the question to make sure you have clarity. Make sure you know exactly what they said, exactly where they were coming from. So now you can respond in a way that is pure of heart, right? And that's the next thing. Speak pure of heart, right? Speak pure of heart. Take a deep breath and let it rip. Take a deep breath and let it come on out. Whatever you need to communicate, take a breath and let it go. It'll be okay. I know for a fact, I've had to express some pretty difficult things to many people before. And it was hard. But after you go ahead and say it and you speak your truth, it's so much easier to deal with. People respect you more when you're able to communicate openly, honestly, and effectively, all right? If you have to rephrase your sentences to ensure that whoever you're communicating with understands, then that's what you got to do. Give examples. Give past experiences, all right? Make reference to experiences that you've had together in order for you to communicate in a way that ensures whoever you're talking to understands. This is important. This establishes a level of vulnerability that needs to happen in order for a relationship to flourish. If two people aren't being vulnerable with each other, really getting to know each other to their core, to their root, the relationship is not going to last because you're still dating their representative, right? And when we're having open, honest communication, we're really getting to know the person that is kind of hidden away, right? The person who everybody doesn't get to experience. And that's what we want to be building solid relationships on. Communicating on a deeper level, talking from your heart, right? Okay? So to conclude, release judgment. Don't make assumptions. Listen for understanding. Speak from your heart. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. If you do all of that, you'll be good at communicating, right? You'll be great at communicating. Impeccable at communicating. Love y'all. Peace. Thank you for visiting. Share this video